So this is Wednesday's guided reading lesson, and we're carrying on with a story of Indian tales from this traditional tale book, and we're reading Five Men in a Cart. Now, if you remember where we left them yesterday, the four disciples and their teacher Guruji were on their way to the market in a cart pulled by some bullocks. They'd had a quick stop to pick up Guruji's turban, and Guruji had told them to pick up anything from the road. He'd gone to sleep, and when we left off, the bullocks had just started pooing on the road. Let's have a look what happens next. The four men looked at each other, horrified. They were supposed to pick up anything that fell on the road. "Stop!" cried two men. "We must pick up the dung, even if it's filthy. We must obey Guruji." "No," said the other two, "we'll be late for the market." The four men argued for a while. They looked at their sleeping teacher and recalled his orders to pick up anything that fell on the road. Finally, they stopped the cart and the four men leapt out. They scooped the dung off the road and dropped it into the back of the cart, even though it made their hands filthy, even though they felt squeamish doing it. What do you think squeamish means? So you even figure it out from the clues. How do you think they're feeling? The cart rumbled on. Guruji woke and he saw the pile of brown dung in the wagon next to him and asked, "What is this?" "Bullock dung," explained the four men. "It fell on the road, so we picked it up." Well, Guruji turned as red as a cherry. "Silly, silly men, stop! Get this dung off at once and clean the cart and your hands." "Ji ha," said the four men. The cart stopped. The men scooped the dung out of the wagon and then went to the river to wash their hands. When they returned, Guruji had calmed down. "I have made a list of the essentials that to be picked up if they fall off the cart." He handed the list to them. "Now, for your guru's sake, please follow this list. Do not pick up anything that is not on the list. Is that clear?" "Ji ha," said the four men, wobbling their heads in agreement. They read out the list. Guruji's turban, the basket of fruit and vegetables, the pot of boiled rice, and jars of water. So they're only going to pick up these things from the road. The five men in the bullock cart set off for the market once more. On their way, the cart ran into a tree and rolled over. Guruji fell into a deep muddy ditch, while two of the men were flung on one side of the ditch and the other two were flung on the other side, along with the basket, the fruit, vegetables, pot of rice, and jars of water. The men went through their teacher's checklist to see what had fallen out of the cart. Guruji's turban did not fall. The basket of fruit and vegetables fell. They picked up the basket, but left the fruit and vegetables scattered on the road. The pot of boiled rice fell. They picked up the rice, but left the rice. The jars of water fell. They picked them up. "Help!" cried Guruji. "Get me out of here." He's just sinking into the muddy ditch there. The four men shook their heads in unison. That means all together. "Guruji, you are not on the checklist that you gave us." "Help! Help!" cried Guruji, struggling to get out of the ditch, but falling face down into the sticky mire. His white gown and face were soiled brown. The four men looked at each other in confusion. "He is testing us," said one of them. "This is a hard test, but we must follow the list." "Help! Help! Help!" cried Guruji again. The four men looked helplessly at their teacher. "We can jump into the ditch with you if you want." An old woman collecting twigs for firewood heard Guruji's cries and ran to help. She held out a long twig to him. "Hold on to this," she said, and she pulled and pulled. Guruji clung onto the other end of the twig, but slipped and sank back into the sticky mire. The old woman suddenly caught sight of the four men standing still, like temple pillars. "Stop gawking," she cried. "Come and help me." The four men shook their heads sadly. "We must follow Guruji's checklist, and he is not on it." "Give me that list." The old woman grabbed it from the men and threw it to Guruji, who hastily scrawled his name on it. Then, and only then, did the four men pull their teacher out of the ditch and help him back onto the bullock cart. Turn back, we are not going to the market, said the upset Guruji. Ji ha, said the four very obedient but very bewildered men. And so for the last time, the bullock cart with the five men bumped back along the rugged road, thup, 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 while the brass bells on the necks of the bullocks tolled do, do, dong, all the way back to the ashram. And that's the end of that story. So they never did get to the market. Poor Guruji got left in the mud for a while. And those four men, they were very obedient, but they maybe were not very sensible. Right, let's have a look at your questions then for today. So this is 5 Men in a Cart part 2. So first of all, why do the men pick up the dung from the road? What a strange thing to do. Why do they do that? Bit for retrieval here. Find and copy 3 things from Guruji's list. Remember, he wrote that list for them of things to pick up. Find and copy 3 of them. Number 3, how does Guruji fall in a ditch? What happens to the cart that makes him fall down? Number 4, how do you think he feels when the men refuse to help him? And you've got to explain why. So you've got to imagine he's their teacher. He's fallen into this muddy ditch. He's asking for help and they're saying, oh, sorry, we can't. You're not on the list. So explain how he feels and why you think that. We've got a bit of text here. So the 4 men looked at each other in confusion. He is testing us, said one of them. This is a hard test, but we must follow his list. Are the men right or wrong? Is he testing them? How do you know? Number 6, what lesson do you think the men might have learned from this journey? They've made a few mistakes, haven't they? What lesson do you think they might have learnt? Number 7 is about the end of the story. Turn back. We are not going to the market, said the upset Guruji. Why don't they go to the market at the end of the story? And number 8, the bullock cart with the 5 men bumped back along the rugged road, thup, 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 while the brass bells on the necks of the bullocks told do, do, dong. What is this an example of? Is this rhyming? Is this onomatopoeia? Or is this alliteration? What do you think? All right. When you finish that, as always, send it to your teacher on eSchools. And that's everything. Bye.